Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first in a very, very long time live daily cup of genre here on the Genreverse YouTube channel. I would say the Genreverse podcast network as well, but I can't do the audio live. I'm Kyle Malone. Subscribe to the Genreverse YouTube channel because we do a lot of really great content here. Live streams like this, usually gaming related, editing video, and now doing a tier list video. But anime reactions, trailer reactions, all the podcasts that you guys know from the audio side. And speaking of those, they're all on your favorite podcast app, so give us a follow there. Check out lrmonline.com every day for written news, reviews, celebrity interviews, and more. And around LRM right now, I'm not going to go into too many stories because, well, there wasn't a lot, and that's why I'm doing a tier list today. Plus, like I said, Daily COG is going to be more conversational, more me. So you guys can find entertainment news across the spectrum, comic books, tabletop gaming, celebrity interviews that go up on the LRM YouTube channel, and more. Check it out. Site's been around for a while. Ghostbusters news, Marvel news, hoity-toity, like Oscar bait type movie news. We cover it all. Well, thanks to everyone that does watch and pop in on the live stream. It's kind of we don't do a lot of these, and to do one unannounced in the morning is good because there won't be a big audience. And if I screw up, I can hide it, delete the video or something. No, I'm joking. But it's also bad because there's not a lot of people in the audience. So Final Fantasy. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. You guys may have seen my video that I did last week where I kicked a hornet's nest. Sorry, I'm giving myself a little bit of volume in my ears for my music. I did do, which hopefully you guys can't hear, I did do a video where I discussed Final Fantasy XVI versus 12 a little bit, and it got a pretty good reaction. I'm pretty happy with that. I looked at it as kicking a hornet's nest, but it didn't really seem to piss as many people off as I thought. There's a few out there, but I do love this series. It's a game series I've been playing since I was a little kid. Like my first Final Fantasy game was technically a mana game because it was it Final Fantasy Legend or Adventure, small green Game Boy cartridge. That series eventually became the Mana series, but that was the very first one that I ever played, and then I got to play the first one on the NES. Skipped a couple, eventually got to the Super Nintendo, got to go back when the Anthology and Origins games were re-released on PlayStation, as well as other ports and emulators to basically play all of the mainline Final Fantasy games. That being said, there are a few games out there that I haven't played in a long time. May have only played once, and some that I have not played at all. And I'm not the world's like most familiar person with Tier List Maker, which is what I'm using. So I found one that had like all the images already there, and so I'm using that one. I did create two categories of not played sequel because I just want to do the main line, no spin-off sequels or anything like that. And then I did one that I can't fairly rate because I'm going to try to look at three things here. One is the in-game stuff, so characters and story. How good are those? Two, I'm going to look at gameplay. How well does the game play? And then three, personal enjoyment. To be super fair, I'm going to limit myself to one 2D S tier and one 3D S tier. So that's kind of the rules. That's where I'm coming from. So like I said, big fan. Going to try to look at everything as fairly as I possibly can. And if I can't rate it fairly or I haven't played it besides these sequels, they'll go down in there. We're going to essentially go in order here. Final Fantasy I. It's old, guys. Like I said, I played it on the original Nintendo, like on my original. Well, no, it was my second one because my sister destroyed my first one. She shoved marshmallows into my original Nintendo while we were living in Germany. My dad was Army, so it was my second one that I got once we got back stateside. Sigh. Anyways, Final Fantasy I is an important game. A lot of you might know the history of Square and how this was kind of like a last-ditched effort. There's a lot of like mythology about the name and the reasoning for the names, but Final Fantasy I, it took a lot of things that people liked about RPGs in general, whether that's tabletop or some of the ones that existed in the video game realm, and it managed to not really hit Western audiences all that great, but it managed to hit enough audiences out there, especially in Japan, to kind of bring the realm of RPG in a more simple way, so to speak, and really heavily focused on story. I mean, it was a game changer, so to speak. Final Fantasy I is one of those that I've played a few times. Played it originally. Played was it Origins or Anthology on PlayStation? I don't remember which one, but I played it again on there, and then I have played a chunk of it on emulation. I think story-wise and like other in-world aspects, your characters, it's fine. It's not. It's the game itself that was really groundbreaking, so to speak. So I think it's definitely easily like a B tier for the in-game stuff. But it's the first one, right? So you don't. It's not necessarily going to knock it out of the park on all of them. On the gameplay side, for what it was amazing, right? Compared to today, there's a lot of little nitpicky things you can get at from the battle system to the map and things like that, layout, some of the physical stuff. So I still think that in the mindset of it being a product of its time, I still think that's a B. And for enjoyability, personal enjoyability, it's not one that I'm going to go back and revisit again. Like I said, I didn't even finish my third playthrough, and it's not because it's a bad game. It's just that I know there's better out there. So I might say like personal enjoyability is more like maybe like a C tier, but hey, two out of three were Bs. I'm going to put Final Fantasy I, the original, as is, B tier. What do you guys think? And thanks to everyone that is watching live and those that watch on replay. Final Fantasy II, the follow-up. This is one that I've actually only played once, and because of that, I do not think that I can fairly rate it. I don't know what else to say about it. Does anyone out there in the comments or watching live, do you guys have any strong connections to Final Fantasy II? even like going back and looking, for some reason it's just one of those that I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go to 4, or I'm gonna go play 5, or go play one of the 3D ones. It's, I don't know, what do you guys think? Final Fantasy III is kind of similar, and I know we're running through a lot of these 2D ones. We're going to talk more about 4, 5, and 6 when they come up. 3 is similar to 2, but I did play through it all once. I think story and characters, they're fine. You're getting progress between 1, 2, and 3, right? They're still not like A tier. We're coming up on A tier with some of these next ones, right? And maybe an S tier, right? I get one for the 2D. I wonder which one that's gonna be. 3 on the characters and story side, like I said, your in-world stuff, you're making progress. I think you're again in that, like, that B tier realm. And then the mechanics, I mean, things have really gotten refined. I think that again is a B. And for replay, like I said, I've only played it once. Personal enjoyment, we'll stick the 2 out of 3. We'll stick it up there in B tier. What do you guys think? Let me know. 4. 4 is one that I'm actually actively replaying now. 4 was one of my early favorites when I got to play through the Super Nintendo games, and excuse me, not the Super Nintendo games, the like anthologies and Origins, the re-releases. There we go. 4 was one of the ones that I really enjoyed, got to go back and play. I'm actively playing it on emulator right now. And I always liked the betrayal within the military. I was a military guy. My dad was in the military. And I always like, I don't want to give away too much stuff, but there's like military betrayal. There's, you're dedicated to your nation, right? And I served in the U.S. Army, and I'm dedicated to the United States, and there's betrayal there, and there's this soldier that's dealing with this inner turmoil. 4 is one of those ones where the stories really start taking off. Your combat systems are really honed in. We've got a focused story. Not as broad as, say, 6 gets, but definitely bigger in scope and more personal in a lot of ways as you after getting through 1, 2, and 3. I can't wait to play through it again. It's been years. I would probably say it's been 10 years or so since I played 4 last. And I'm excited. I considered getting it on the Pixel remaster, but I didn't. So I'm playing the original emulator. Yeah, which is Super Nintendo. My brain today. Jesus Christ, Kyle. Because that's what I'm playing it on, right? Yeah. Let me look at my... It is. I'm sorry. I've got brain damage anyways, guys. So, 4 is, like I said, great story, great characters. You got some really, really good writing. Gameplay, totally amazing, and enjoyability. Like I said, it's one of those that I've played a few times. Playing through it now, I'm going to put Final Fantasy IV up in the A tier. 5 is going to be the next one that I can't, I don't think I can fairly rate. I don't think I've ever completed 5. I don't know why. It's one of those, again, where it's like whenever I think about it, it either goes like, I can play something else later. Not that it's bad. I can't say anything really about it because I can't remember too much about it. So we're going to go into the can't fairly rate for that one. That brings us to Final Fantasy VI. This is one that I know a lot of people, this is their GOAT, right? And if you notice, we're down to the last of the 2D ones. and I don't have an S tier yet. 6 is big. 6 is sprawling. 6 is challenging. 6 is shocking. There's a twist in 6, and I don't want to give it away. I know it's a super old game. I'm going to try not to give away any big spoilers in these. But for its time, especially, the twist in 6 is mind-blowing. You don't see anything like that. 2019 had 2018 had a movie that had something similar to the big twist in 6, but I'm not gonna throw out the title. The remake that got released, Anthology or Origins, I can't remember which one it was. One had like 1 and 2, the other one had, was it 4 and 6 or 5 and 6? You got the full motion videos. I remember that was amazing. Playing on the Super Nintendo, man, I used to took me a while to appreciate 6 because of how massive it was. All of the characters could get kind of overwhelming. I used to play Mystic Quest, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was Square's attempt to sucker the West into Final Fantasy games and RPGs. I used to play that one, and I had 6, both on the system, and would bounce back and forth, but I ended up beating Mystic Quest long before I beat 6. I love that you get to do so much across such a wide world. The diverse cast of characters, and it's large, like it's a large cast of characters, is great. But like I said, it can be overwhelming. In world, this is a solid S tier game. Story, characters, the villain's great, right? Music is something that I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about, but Final Fantasy VI is one of those first, besides the like the prelude and standard Final Fantasy musical fare. It's like the first one that really stands out in my mind. It's a lot of fun. Final Fantasy VI easily. Well, I gotta scroll up some. Easily gets the S tier for the 2D realm. Now look, here's the thing about the 2D games. They get a lot of love. They get a lot of nostalgia, but it can be hard to go back and play some of them. I think 4 stands out real well. 6 stands out real well, and those are games that you can definitely go back and play again and again. But I have a lot more reverence for the 3D games. Why? Immersion, music is a big thing. Video is a big thing. I like to experience Final Fantasy, and this is something I went into some of my issues with 16, and I was talking about immersion and not being ripped out of experiencing the story as a game, playing the story. And the 3D realm of modern video games allows you to get that experience a little bit more. 7 being the first in the 3D era was groundbreaking. 7 had an amazing story. There's a lot of translation issues. There's some iffy writing around certain plot points, but the characters were compelling. Their motivations were compelling. You felt this world. You felt the danger. It's a lot of fun. There's a good twist in there that the 7 remake series is covering. And I'm curious as to how things are going to go with Zack and Cloud. But it really was a great story. Not necessarily the best writing, but it was good. But a really, and I mean for that one, especially the translation. But it was a great story. Characters, man, these are iconic characters. There's a reason why as soon as the PlayStation 2 was released, there's a reason why 7 was like demanded as, hey, we want to see Final Fantasy 7, you know, we want to see it remade in modern graphics. It's a big deal, right? The characters are freaking amazing. Sorry, I lost my thought there for a second. The characters are amazing. Cloud, one of the like all-time leading men. Everyone wanted to have his sword, especially until the Gunblade came out in 8 next, because then everyone wanted that. Who can blame them? Combined two of the best things ever in warfare, guns and swords, right? This is a game that I once played almost yearly for like 15 years in a row. No joke. The amount of time I've logged on Final Fantasy VII is insane. Probably criminal in some way, somewhere. Waste of my time after, 1,000, 2,000 hours. No, it's not a waste of time. I want to put this on S tier. I so badly do. I really, really do. But we've got a lot of other games to go through for this 3D era. So I'm gonna tell you that this is A or S, and we're gonna talk through it a little bit more as we go through the rest of the 3. So for now, 7 will sit in A, but this might end up being the S tier. Dude, I freaking love this. Can you guys? I got some Final Fantasy VII stuff back there. So yeah. All right. So let's continue on to 8. Now, this is going to cause some fights with people. I know. I'm not a fan of 8. 8 is one that I've played all the way through twice and did not make it through my third replay when it was remastered and released relatively recently. 8's got a great story. It's got good music. I really enjoyed the full motion video that we got. It was a big step up over Final Fantasy VII. I think there are some really compelling characters in 8. I, however, am a bully, and I like to bully the bad guys. I like to level grind like there is no tomorrow, and then walk through like the Giga Chad that my main character truly is. You can't do that with 8. 8 grades you on a curve. And damn it, if I was smart enough to dominate all the other students on tests, then I should be able to dominate the bad guys in the digital realm of Final Fantasy VIII. So it really is a mechanics thing. It's a gameplay aspect for Final Fantasy VIII that ruins it for me. I think the junction system is really unique and can be a lot of fun to play with, and I see why a lot of people really dig it. Story-wise, this is an A tier story. I think there's A tier characters in here. But remember, this is a personal tier list, and I think gameplay for me, man, this is a little bit rougher. I think it's I really do not enjoy. I don't enjoy tactical battle evasion unless I'm like overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? I don't like, man, I need a few items, or I need this specific spell, so I got to go out and do that. It's not the Final Fantasy experience that I have been looking for. So for me, on the gameplay side, it's kind of a C. And on the replay and enjoyability, how much I personally like the game, I'm really torn between a B and a C. But I think because it's, I'm kind of going with what's the lowest. So I'm sorry, guys. Hate me if you I think Final Fantasy VIII's like a C tier. I think it's a C tier. But that brings us to 9. Which is another one that a lot of people really, really enjoy. And let me tell you, as someone that, was playing all of these most of the time as they released, especially in this 3D realm, I had longed to get back after 2 futuristic cyber or steampunkish, not really cyber, but yeah, steampunkish. And then 8 was just kind of neo futuristic with some. 8 was a bit hodgepodge. But I wanted to get back to a fantasy setting. I wanted to experience those fantasy realms from the 2D games in this new 3D era, and a lot of people did. And these all hit in real fast succession. 7, 8, and 9. I think I played through them all in middle school. Maybe 9 was freshman year. Maybe. I was born in 85. Someone else do the math. And excuse me. And 9 was one of those ones. As soon as you saw the images in game magazines and things like that, you were getting hyped for. 4 discs, man. I remember that. It was insane. Back in the day, 7 was 3, 8 was 3, and then 9 was 4 discs. Great soundtrack. Again, music moves up a notch. Really cool characters. A nice world, man. Like a nice world to explore, and a lot of diversity in it. Combat was fun. I like their overdrive, if I remember exactly what it was called, which was kind of like the limit breaks. I think that was a lot of fun. Zidane, cool leading character. It's got an interesting start, and the job, not the jobs of like thief, warrior. The job that the main character has is cool, and I like bringing in that theatrical aspect that him and his crew have. 9 was, that tail end of the PlayStation, man. This was like showing off everything that the original system could do. They'd gotten to build they being Square Enix, getting to build their talent on that system over a couple of games already. 9 really showed that off. I think characters, story, overall, I think is probably A tier. I think the gameplay, there was something, and I've been trying to put my finger on it. It's been, I want to say, I replayed 9. Was it during the pandemic or right before it? 2019, 2020, sometime around there is the last time that I played 9, and there was something that was bugging me, and I remember it bugging me, but I cannot remember what it was. So I can't really hold it against it, and I have replayed this multiple times. I played it a couple of times on disc, like within the first few years that it came out. I think I can easily give Final Fantasy IX a C. No, I'm joking. Final Fantasy IX easily an A. Right now, this 7 probably belongs like right here, because it might be S tier. Excuse me. Where are we at on time? Wow, already almost 30 minutes. Jeez. Thank you everyone that's been watching. Sorry if my tier list is controversial. I don't know how well it will go. Let's carry on to 10. Final Fantasy X, first game on the PS2. Most of these games I got at either midnight releases or pre-orders and picked them up on day 0. These modern ones, getting into like 10, 12, and so on. 10 was one that started off really good for me. I mean, wonderful opening, amazing graphics. You're getting voice acting. You're getting all these things brand new. It's like playing Final Fantasy VII all over again, right? Because everything's new, everything's fresh. It's a new era, new system, and it's on the greatest system ever at the time, with the PlayStation 2. It started petering out for me a bit. on the mechanic side, again, this is one where I think the story is really cool. There is again a unique twist in here, one that plays not just with the main character, but messes with the supporting character and messes with the world itself, kind of like Six, but different. Just it's still world changing, we will say. We'll leave it at that. And the twist is cool. So Yuna and Titus, however you want to say it, and the other cast, Waka, God, why it's not Arson. What is his name? God, dude with the sword and his arm in the sleeve. Why is it? It's not Argon. It's escaping me. He's also in Kingdom Hearts. They're all great, and I love the aspect of the pilgrimage that Yuna's on. Like, there's a lot there, but again, it was mechanics. I think the slots, the turn slots that they used, added a unique tactical situation, because you can take time, you can kind of pause and look at and see who's coming up next, what things you can cast, or what things you can items that you can use to shift your turns up and down, move the enemies. But it got a little bit annoying at times, and I missed the ATB. It was a big change. And then Blitzball and the spheres, the sphere grid. I was not a fan of the sphere grid, which is funny because a few games later you get to the license board, and I was actually a fairly big fan of the license board. But the sphere grid did not hit me then and there. I forgot to talk about the card games in 8 and 9, and I really should have talked about those card games, because those were side games that you get, and here you get the Blitzball. I think Blitzball was ambitious, and I give them an A for effort on that. It wasn't my favorite thing to do in the game, but I appreciate them offering it. Like, we'd gotten used to the card games in 8 and 9, and this was something different. I definitely give them an A for effort, but it wasn't for me. The other aspect to 10 was the world and the linearness of it. 13, we'll talk about linearness in a bit. So there were things about 10 that rubbed me wrong. I think re-enjoyability, I've played 10 twice on the PlayStation 2. And I've played partway through the HD remaster. I didn't really enjoy it the second time, and I didn't finish it the third time. CBA 10, man, this one's hard. Because I do think there's a lot of really good stuff there, but there's just on that gameplay side, man. Here's the question. Would I rather play 10 or 8? I think I would probably rather play 10. So we'll put 10 in the B. I think that's fair, because I think some of my personal gripes dealing with like the turnstiles and things like that is more of just like a preference thing. There's a lot of really good stuff in 10, so I think I'll stick 10 in B. Yeah, we'll stick with that for right now. 11. We'll get this out of the way. 11 and 14 are MMOs. I am not an MMO person. I've tried. I tried Final Fantasy XI. I've played on my friend's Warcraft before, and EverQuest. Was that it? As well as the Star Wars, The Old Republic. I've tried multiple MMOs. They're not my bag, baby. So we're gonna put these in the can't fairly rate 11 because I actually did try it, actually did play it. 14, much like all the expansion packs you see here, I've never played it because it's not my thing. I know that everyone talks about how good they are. I would love. It's just not my thing. So I'm not knocking it. Please don't hate me. I'm not knocking 11 or 14. Just saying that MMOs not my thing. All right, let's get into 12. So you guys may have seen my video on 12 here on the Genreverse YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, where it's on here somewhere, videos. Sorry. Video tab right there's me talking about 12 being greater than 16, which is something I stand by. 12 is by far not the perfect Final Fantasy game. The original 12 has a few glaring issues. The license board, I mentioned, that kind of gets fixed because you can claim the whole license board and just make the world's strongest characters, which is kind of fun to do. But it's also kind of game breaking, especially if you're like me and level grinding is not something you dislike. 12 did have some character issues, and those issues are a lot of the characters are bland. A lot of the characters are boring. But several of the characters are great. Fran and Balthier, of course, being standouts. Bosch being a standout. What name should I call her? We're just going to go with Ash. She's fine. She can get annoying sometimes. And I think that's because some of the story for motivations doesn't flesh out as much as they should. Yeah, there's character issues. If I had to pin one thing on this game, it would be character issues. Those can be glaring from time to time. Story. This is standard Final Fantasy story affair. Ratelia, hello. How's it going? Thank you for joining and saying hi. We're talking Final Fantasy XII right now. Yeah, we're talking Final Fantasy XII. Where was I? Where we were talking? Oh, story. So standard kind of Final Fantasy overbearing empire, smaller countries under their thumb, lineage stuff, magic. I mean, there's crystals involved. Final Fantasy XII. The story isn't groundbreaking, but it's good. It's fun. There's some familial issues, some betrayal, which is always fun. And we get an interesting Cid this time around. Might throw some for a loop, as they might be used to Cids in Final Fantasy games being a certain way. Final Fantasy XII's was very different. So I think in world, and speaking of the world, Ivalice is by far the best Final Fantasy world. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy Tactics, but this isn't an all Final Fantasy games tier list. It's just the main numbered ones. And but Ivalice is great, and I wish we could play there more. I really do. I think 12's world is very expansive, and while the outside world is a little bit more linear than, say, like 7, 8, 9, they managed to make it feel big enough and open enough, and there's enough passages and paths that it doesn't feel as linear as like 10 and 13 do. And it's so diverse. I love seeing the enemies on the field. I remember that in, that's a new thing for Final Fantasy relatively at this point in 12. Especially in the 3D era, 7, 8, 9, you don't get that. There's a few enemies out on the map, but usually not. It's just random battles. That brings us into the battle system for 12, which I think 12 has the best, bar none, battle system out there, especially for the turn-based way. They kind of blend a little bit of real time with your ability to move around after inputting your commands, or while inputting your commands. Positioning matters. If you can get around to the side or back of an enemy, you can do more damage. There's a lot of tactical aspects to the combat in Final Fantasy XII. And of course, you can set it up to where the time stops and you stop moving to input your commands and whatnot. You can manually control your party, or because there's that live combat aspect to it, you can use the gambit system, which if you take the time to collect the proper gambits, you can create some really strong parties with that. I adore the Final Fantasy XII battle system, and I'm a fan of 7 Remake. I think it's a great battle system for an action RPG, but I was kind of hoping that we would get Final Fantasy XII style combat for 7 Remake, but the game went in a different direction than just remaking the original, and I don't mean just story-wise, even mechanically. So character-wise, 12 has got some issues. Legitimately, it could be C tier on those characters. Fran, Balthier, Bosch, and a few side characters actually kind of help bump it up, maybe just to that B. But the rest of it, man, the world itself, a fairly solid story. If not vanilla, it's still solid. It's not like vanilla and bad. So I think definitely for the in-world stuff, you get B. Combat, 100%. This is like S tier combat. Like legitimately, I think mechanically 12 is one of the best games out there. The license board, especially in Zodiac Age, is phenomenal. I like it. I like bringing that job aspect to the game. Personal replay, I freaking love this game. I wouldn't quite necessarily give it S tier, but it's definitely A tier, and it's right behind 7, which might, like I said, it might be this one's S tier, the 3D Realms S tier. 7 maybe. Well, we'll put that somewhere in there right now. All right, so that brings us to 13. Now I was in the army when 13 hit. I was in wow, that's crazy I was in the army for 12 as well, because 12 came out after my deployment to Iraq. I got it back in the States. After my deployment to her, I got the Steelbook. I still have it. I have my original PlayStation 2 copy of it and got the strat guide and everything. But 13 years later, I was in Germany when it came out. I got it, PS3. Super excited to play the next generation Final Fantasy game. Oh, man. The opening video, mostly still pumped. Kind of weirded out by the setup, the planet, and the initial story that you get, and then gameplay. And I kept waiting for the game to open up, and I don't just mean world wise. I'm like the ability to move all over the world, but I just felt so story and character constrained even, and I'm aware that it gets much more expansive as you go on. But then we get into actual, moving forward and progressing in the game, and it's very linear. And now we're talking both in-game, not just, how the story is built around the characters at that point. And it just did not rub me right. I could not get into the combat for 2. The paradigm shift system was not my bag, baby. I couldn't get into the characters even. I think it looked great. I think there's a lot there that had me super duper excited, but man, it didn't do it for me. I'm sorry. This is a game that a lot of people had issues with, and it would be easy to just crap all over it. But the truth is, I couldn't get far enough into it on a personal enjoyment level to get to those better moments. And that's rough, man. When a game is like that, and again, this is personal. When a game is like that, it speaks volumes, right? There's a difference between it's not for me, and oh my god, this is uncomfortable. It was such a shift away from everything that had made Final Fantasy, except for some of the character types and maybe the story. Guys, I don't like 13. I'm gonna join the hate club. I'm gonna put 13 as our first and so far only D tier. If 13's your jam, was the original your jam, or did it take until 13.2, 13.3? Did it take until that for this game to get you going? Is 13 like the Star Wars prequels where the Clone Wars made it better, like it fixed it? Like does the sequels to 13 fix it? Let me know in the comments below or in chat. Oh man, 14 we already talked about. I'm not an MMO guy. I got this close during the pandemic to getting 14. I was this close to giving it a try, but I was just like, I don't like interacting with people online. And I know you don't necessarily have to, or at least I think you don't have to, but you miss out a lot if you don't, the way I understand. And I might be wrong. You might be able to do everything fine solo. But I did. I got really close. 15, however, I can talk about 15. I got 15 with my PlayStation 4 Pro. So I didn't get a regular PS4. I had the 3 until the Pro came out, and I got 15 with it. I had just had surgery, and I was laid up for a few days, so I actually had, because I was still in the Army at the time, and I had plenty of time to play 15, and boy, did I. 15 has a very, very troubled history. For those that don't know, it was going to be part of 13, one of the spin-off. I think this was 13 Versus, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Originally, right? 13 Versus, or one of the other 13 spin-off games, and it went through production hell, and it went through delay after delay, change after change. And the final product wasn't even final. Many of you might have tried playing the release version and known that you had to watch a movie, Kingsglaive, which is fun. I like Kingsglaive. It's fun. You had to watch that to get some story. You had to eventually wait on the DLC to get some further story. It needed a lot of supplemental. There's a web series, an anime web series as well. But when it opens up, man, it's pretty cool. It looked great, and as the first Final Fantasy for the well, you have 14. I got that, but this is the PS4's first story. This is the next gen Final Fantasy, right? And so it looks good. It sounds good. I like the characters. I like the story well enough. It's actually got one of the better villains for Final Fantasy, especially in the modern era. Arden is compelling. I like his arc. I really, really do. I think that Noctis and his brothers, because that's who they are, Prompto, Gladio, and Ignis, I think they're the highlight of the game. I think the interactions that they constantly have. You want to talk about immersion in a game, in a Final Fantasy game, 15 is that. You experience everything together. There's no more cohesive a party than Final Fantasy 15. And sure, it can be kind of frustrating to not be able to control the guys as finite as you can other party members in past games, but you still do get enough to have some tactics there, and do more than just control Noctis, right? I think the combat system, the action RPG system, it leaves a little to be wanted for sure, but it was good. It was fine. It was, it provided a lot. I really enjoyed using it, but it wasn't, 7 remakes is better, absolutely. There's aspects of 16 that I think are better, but I think 16's a little too simple. I think if you could mix some of 15 and 16's combat together, it would be great. Or we should just use 7 Remake as the gold standard for Final Fantasy combat going forward. Because I think 7 Remake, for the action RPG, they nailed it. Especially Final Fantasy style. 12 is still the best combat system ever. So world-wise, it's fun to explore. It's expansive. There's a lot of reasons to talk to people that you meet around. The towns are definitely smaller, except for a few big ones, and you guys know the ones that you that have played it know the towns that I'm talking about. But there's actual reasons to visit different places. The photos, the cooking, all the little side stuff, the fishing things. Yeah, sure, that might not be traditional Final Fantasy, but it added an element, and there were reasons to do a lot of those little side quest type deals and those things that each guy was into, and not just rewards for like leveling up things or equipment, but it enhanced your relationships in game and with you to the game, to the characters in game. Where are we at? So that's the world. We covered characters, stories, gameplay. I like a lot of it. I like the way that they do the dungeons with the open world there. It makes me curious as to how 7 Rebirth is going to go. 16, I think, failed a lot in this aspect. The world of 16 feels completely void. There's no reason. We'll get into 16, but 15 didn't have those issues. There's reasons to go and look around. You're gonna find items. You're gonna find people. You're gonna find beasts, and I appreciated that. I think 15 gets a lot of flack because of the way that it started out. It definitely becomes a much better product later on. I think 15's a solid B, maybe A. This might be the highest there. Maybe this. Yeah, maybe we'll do like that. 15 could be A tier. If you look at it as the complete total final package, I think you could give it A tier. Royal Edition. Experiencing it as you had to from the start, I think you could give it a B tier. High B tier though for 15. And that of course brings us to the last one, the most recent one, Final Fantasy XVI. And I've had a lot to say about 16. Some of it's made people happy, some of it hasn't. Look, Final Fantasy games are meant for me, again, like I said, to be experienced completely. So that means I should experience the story through the gameplay as well as in the modern era and even in the past, the cutscenes. And I should never be drawn out by them. I should never feel broken up by them. I should experience it all, and it should all feel like a game. 16 didn't. 16 feels like 2 different mediums. There is the show, series, or movie you're watching, and then there's some combat, some arcade style combat, and fancy boss fights in between. They rip you out of each to do them. I think there's a lot of compelling story in 16, and if 16 was a series, if it was Final Fantasy the series and it was the whole story of 16, I think I would really enjoy that. But I want to play the Final Fantasy game, right? So if it's not a series, I want to play it, and I don't feel like I was ever playing the story of Final Fantasy XVI. I was watching it, and then I did some arcade combat. The combat's fun. I do think that there's a bit too simple combat for it at times, and it can become repetitive, especially if you're like me and you like to level grind, and they make level grinding almost pointless in this game. And it's almost like 8, where they want to punish you for level grinding. Where 8, the enemies scale up with your level. In 16, they just don't let you level up. It takes a ridiculously large amount, and the enemies are not endlessly spawning. So you got to leave an area, come back to an area, or transport out of the region, transport back in, and they're always in the same spots. And it's so empty. The world is so empty. In all of the towns, there's no reason to talk to anyone unless you have to for stories. Like, even items are essentially pointless in Final Fantasy XVI. No status ailments, really. You can find all the potions and stuff that you need. Everything's stupid expensive. It's almost like the whole purpose is to keep you either fighting something, going to your next boss fight dungeon, or watching the cutscenes. That's not Final Fantasy to me. And I really didn't like how the cutscenes will be very long, and then you'll get a chance to play, and the play is to walk from one point to another and then do another cutscene or more dialogue. And a lot of the cutscenes, if they're not there right before or right after battle, are all very static. People just standing around and talking. So I have a lot of issues with 16. I think the combat had a lot of potential, can be a lot of fun, but can get repetitive unless you just play the game straight through. I think the characters are fine, but I don't have a connection to them because I never felt like I was playing them or playing, in their world. I just felt like I was watching them, which I hear people, well, do you not get attached to characters you watch in a movie? I do. But I'm watching a movie. My brain is in, Kyle, you're watching a movie mode, which means you are to enjoy this in a certain way. When I play a game, I'm looking to play and experience that game as such. So I'm sitting there. There's a big death around, a quarter of the way in. For those of you that have played the game, know which one I'm talking about. First big death that you actually see, if you will. I felt nothing for it. I was like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to really be torn up here. That person made a great sacrifice. I don't care. I felt like I never really got to know them because I was getting annoyed on my upteenth cutscene dealing with them that was like 5 minutes long, before walking 200 meters and doing another cutscene and then going to do some combat. But your party member doesn't matter because not only do you not control them, but they don't really contribute a whole lot, and they don't say or do anything with you. It's a disappointing experience for me, and that sucks because I love Final Fantasy, and I don't ever want to say these types of things about a Final Fantasy game. There's very little that I enjoyed about 16. And for that reason, if I could put it in an F, I would, but the lowest that I went with was D. But it is, in my opinion, 16 might be the absolute worst Final Fantasy game ever made. Mainline, not counting spin-offs and stuff like that. Guys, I'm sorry. And like I said, it's not that it's a bad story. It's not that it's it's just not a Final Fantasy game, in my opinion. I don't get it. I don't. But we still have a 3D S tier to make as we wrap this up. And thank you to any that did stay and watch, those that watched through the replay. Really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. 7, 12, or 9. What would be the S tier? 7. I mean, it was probably always going to be 7. I gave it a chance as I'm walking through this. You might be able to put 6 here for me on the A tier. 7 gets it solely by how much it means to me, how much of my life I've spent playing it. The enjoyment factor is far and above all of them. Like I said, I replayed Final Fantasy VII yearly, whether it was on the PlayStation discs, my PSP, or the PS3, 4, and now 5 port that is on there. I played this game every year, yearly, for like 15 years in a row. That streak ended in like 2020, 2021. I do have a replay, but that I'm going through. I'm on disc 1. I'm just about to go get the keystone for the temple of the ancients. And I'm on level 60 something. I've been grinding like crazy. You can use the speed up button on the PS4 and 5 ports. But I played the hell out of this game. It had it broke new ground on so many levels. Yes, it was the first 3D game, so you expect there to be some ground breaking. It had like the quintessential turn-based battle system in 3D, man. It was phenomenal, and I'm really enjoying Remake. I know it's different. I know it's controversial. I think the end of the Remake trilogy will be remaking the original to set that original timeline as it has to be. I think that's the route they'll end up going. And while it's a action RPG, and I would have loved to have played through a 3D version of original 7, maybe with 12's battle system, I'm happy with 7 Remake. I'm hoping Rebirth will be great. I plan on doing live streams for it. But there you guys go. My 2D and 3D S tiers, Final Fantasy 6 and 7. My A tiers being 12, 4, and 9. As a matter of fact, let's do 12, 9, and 4. That might change after I finish my current 4 playthrough. B tier being 15, 10, 1, 2. C tier being 8. D tier being 13 and 16. And I did not think I could fairly rate 2, 5, or 11. I did play 11. I'm not an MMO guy, and the rest of them I did not play. So that's my tier list. Let me know what's in your guys' tier list, what you guys think about mine. I'm sure I'm going to catch a lot of hate, especially for maybe some of my thoughts on like 1 and 3, 13, 6, 16, 8. Okay, I might have a lot of controversial picks, but what's not controversial is all the other content you guys can find here on the Genreverse. We do a lot of anime reactions. I'm about to shut this down so I can set up for Eminence in Shadow. So if you're watching Eminence in Shadow, our reaction will be up in a few hours. Podcast covering everything else you can imagine in geek, pop culture, entertainment. All of the videos go up in audio format except for the reaction ones, because reactions wouldn't quite do right there. And we do have merch. There's a link in the description box. We have our own cute anime girl IMA for AVR, AVR squared, our anime content, Star Wars stuff, Daily COG, all that. And oh yeah, lrmonline.com every day for all the written entertainment news, needs, opinions, celebrity interviews, and more. That's it, guys. Hour-long Daily COG show. That was great. Fun. Ratalia, thank you once again for saying hello. Thank you everyone that watched, and I'll see you guys hopefully on the Daily COG tomorrow. Bye.